What is up, guys? Frosty 0232 here for another edition of Frosty Features. Today we are talking about Valkyrie, who was just announced to come to the game alongside Lady Thor, or the Mighty Thor in Marvel Strike Force terms. So Valkyrie is a little complicated. So typically what this is a comic book background on new characters that come to Marvel Strike Force. Valkyrie's a little bit confusing because the character we're getting in Marvel Strike Force is the one from the movies, who is based on the one from the comics, but doesn't look like the one from the movies. And then they came out with another Valkyrie that is actually based on the one from the movies. So I'm going to try to touch on both. It's a little confusing, but we'll get there together. All right, so here we go. So Valkyrie, this is what she looks like. This is Brunhilde. So this is how Brunhilde looks like in the comics. The Valkyrie are based off of the Valkyrie of the Norse mythology, just like all of the Asgardian kind of characters are. Brunhilde specifically is, in lore, is the head of the Valkyrie. So that's what she is in the comics. So part of the reason why I'm covering this Valkyrie, mainly Brunhilde, is because the Valkyrie in Thor Ragnarok, the one in the MCU, the one that we're getting in game, is actually named Brunhilde. They just namely call her Valkyrie. I think she makes a comment that she no longer goes by that name. But so she is based off of this character right here. They later, and we'll talk about it, but they later come out with a new Valkyrie who actually resembles Tessa Thompson's. Alright. So, first appearance, Defenders number 4, 1972. What an interesting comic for an Asgardian to show up in first. Defenders. We'll talk about that quite a bit, but she's been around a while, but she's actually not in as much as you think she is. And if she is, a lot of the time she's not, like, mega important all the time. But she's still a badass. Still shows up quite a bit. Powers and abilities, Asgardian Physiology Plus. So, Asgardians are automatically stronger than humans. They have super strength, super healing, they are immune to diseases, among other things. So, hers is plus. She is actually known to be stronger than most other men and women Asgardians. Her and Lady Sif actually are sort of superhuman, super Asgardians, if you will. They are sort of a step up from regular Asgardian, so that kind of follows here. Also, as the Valkyrie, as Odin's Valkyrie, so the Valkyrie work for Odin as Odin's Valkyrie, they get 2 additional things. The main one being death perception. So a Valkyrie's main job is to cart souls of Asgardian, not Asgardian necessarily, but people who believe in like their religion, that, you know, Asgardian, they follow their ways. They find those warrior souls dead on the battlefield, and they take them to Valhalla. So Odin has gifted them with powers, one of them being death perception, so that they see people, and if they're about to die, or it's very likely that they'll die, they'll get a glow around them, and that lets the Valkyrie know that they need to like kind of move to that person. Just because the glow happens does not necessarily mean that they die. Another thing that they have, Valkyrie are able to teleport to Valhalla at an instant. So that it's essentially a pocket dimension, so they can kind of poof in and out of reality only to Valhalla. So it's really important to know. So those are the powers and abilities of Valkyrie. You don't really see either of those things in the MCU yet, but that is essentially what a Valkyrie. And it's not just Brunhilde; it's any Valkyrie. Brunhilde just happens to be the strongest of the Valkyrie. Aliases, versions of Valkyrie. They abbreviate that a million different ways. Namely, she just goes by either her regular name or Valkyrie. Annabelle Riggs. This is going to be a point of this could be a point of contention. This could be a bit of an argument. A lot of people are this version of Valkyrie. A lot of people kind of control or are Brunhilde. It's a little confusing, but there's a situation where she and Annabelle Riggs are essentially the same person. So we'll talk about that here in a bit, but it is just a little bit kind of all over the place. I'm on it. 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 Thank you for that. But yes, so different versions of Valkyrie, Valk, different spellings of Valkyrie, and then Annabelle Riggs. Affiliations. Valkyrie, oddly enough, works with the Defenders quite a bit, and then is a big part of the Asgardians of the Galaxy, who are put together by Kid Loki. So the Defenders has really thrown me off when I was kind of doing the research, because I didn't remember that. I'm more familiar with some more recent stuff of Broomhilda's, but the Defenders actually ties back in with the Annabelle Riggs. Background, over 1 million years old. She's Asgardian. So she is from, it's essentially Asgard before Asgard, and Odin takes over. Odin was like the destroyer, and he would move in and he would kill everybody, and then he would take their lands. Like, that's that big thing we learn in the Thor movies, is that he was a conqueror with, hell at his side and stuff. So he conquers, it's Aheim, which is where Sigmund and Broomhilda are, and they're like lovers or whatever. And when Odin conquers there, he gives Valkyrie the chance to flee because she's a woman. She doesn't. He respects that she doesn't, and he makes her his first Valkyrie. Who died? Sigmund and warriors die. So I kind of touched on this. Sigmund is her lover and mentor in Aheim, and I'm definitely pronouncing that wrong. So when Odin kills him in taking over Aheim, and he tells Valkyrie that she can leave, and she's like, no, I'm gonna fight you. And he's like, you can't fight me, but I like your spirit. And that's when Odin decides that he needs a paradise for warriors that deserve it, and he essentially kind of makes that rule where Valkyrie can take souls of warriors to Valhalla at an instance. Then he gives her that job as an Asgardian, and she takes it fully. She moves on from Sigmund pretty fast, actually. Okay, so here we talk about. So going to try to explain the difference between these different Valkyrie as best I can, that are all sort of based on, there's almost like a love triangle with the Tessa Thompson version. So the one we are getting in Marvel Strike Force is based on the MCU's Tessa Thompson version of Valkyrie, but her name is Broomhilda, right? So that's Broomhilda in the comics. 616 looks like this. The Tessa Thompson looks like Tessa Thompson. The one we're getting in Marvel Strike Force, Tessa Thompson. And so 1972, once again, is when Broomhilda came around, this one, right? So in 2021, they came out with Runa, probably not pronouncing that right, Runa, and Runa is based off of Tessa Thompson's look, right? So Runa is not Broomhilda. It is not the Valkyrie from Ragnarok. It is just a different Valkyrie. Because the Valkyrie are a team, right? The Valkyrie are more than one person. Broomhilda happens to be the leader, the best of the Valkyrie, right? And typically when all the Valkyrie die, Broomhilda is the one left standing. But in 2021, they released this version, Runa, who kind of resembles Tessa Thompson and also resembles comments made by Tessa Thompson about the character, right? Also, this character gets drunk and makes weird decisions and stuff like that, just like the MCU version, whereas this Broomhilda in the 616 does not. So Runa is also in the 616. So Broomhilda and Runa kind of combine to make Tessa Thompson's Valkyrie. But also, there's another variant. There's an actual variant so we're talking about, once again, Earth 616, not the fucking MCU. I refuse to acknowledge that. But the comic 616, and then another version in Earth 22681 is actually Broomhilda, and she looks like the Tessa Thompson version, the MCU version. And she has all the style. The 22618, as far as I'm concerned, is the comics line that is similar to the MCU. So that's a direct translation. These two are just different versions of the MCU character in the 616. So the actual parallel from the MCU to 616 is Broomhilda. They made Runa look like her and act like her, but it is in fact a different character, right? But Valkyrie in 22681 is the Valkyrie from the MCU, just in a different kind of universe. Yeah. Boom. There you have it. Is she even her? The Defenders. So, here's the thing about Broomhilda. So, at any given time, Broomhilda probably isn't Broomhilda. there's a lot of stuff. So it's revealed at one point that the Enchantress, who is another character we really should have in Marvel Strike Force. I talk about her all the time. I keep thinking she's going to show up, but she doesn't. Really good Asgardian character. She is a bad guy, but really interesting character. Really good character to kind of roll out. But the Enchantress fights Brunhilde and she seals her. Sorry, I didn't hear. I heard the thing, but it didn't show up. She seals her in a soul crystal, and so in the soul crystal, she's stuck in Niflheim. That's that place where the frost giants are. So she seals her, and Enchantress goes around, she goes around as Brunhilde. She dresses up as her. Enchantress is a really good example of she's really chaotic neutral. She likes to be evil. She likes to be good. She kind of just moves at her own whim. So she is Brunhilde for a very long time. And also, Brunhilde has kind of this reincarnation problem where Odin keeps putting her in different things, or she dies and she gets reincarnated in other people's body. So she loses her memory, and the Enchantress puts her consciousness into another person. She loses her memory, and that's how she becomes part of the Defenders. She's essentially Valkyrie, but as a human, so she's much weaker, and that's who works with the Defenders. So it is a kind of like a section of Brunhilde's like consciousness, right? So she works with the Defenders until she then dies again, gets her spirit like mixed. So this is the Enchantress's version, gives it to her. And then she dies again, and then the Enchantress rushes to Brunhilde's body to try to make sure that she doesn't get it, and she gets in her body anyway. They fight again, and Brunhilde seals Enchantress into the soul crystal, and Brunhilde becomes Brunhilde with her actual body, full strength, right? And then she starts working with the Asgardians more than the Defenders. I know it's super convoluted, but that is what it is. This character, for being more or less a supporting character, this character has a very complex backstory. Alright, so moving on. Relationships. Sigmund. I talked about Sigmund earlier. Former trainer / lover. Moondragon. So Moondragon is the mentee. Brunhilde is the mentor. So Odin placed Moondragon underneath Brunhilde so Brunhilde could teach her how to not only try to keep her good, try to keep her like to be a kind of divine person, but also to actually learn her that discipline. Lady Sif is her rival. So she doesn't actually have any known relatives. So I kind of filled it in with like her friends, I guess. So Lady Sif is her rival. Lady Sif, once again, is the only essentially Asgardian equivalent to Brunhilde as far as strength goes when you're not looking at people like Thor. Kind of that step down from the main gods, but the Valkyrie are goddesses. It is a thing, so they are extremely strong. Can probably hold their own against somebody like Thor for a short period of time. So Lady Sif is on the same level. We know who Lady Sif is because of the MCU. She disappeared for a little while. Maybe we'll see her in Thor: Love and Thunder. Who knows? And she is on the new Asgardians team on Marvel Strike Force, Lady Sif. So important to know that they do have a thing. Flash Thompson, Agent Venom, is her lover in the comics. She kind of is coy with him and plays around with him, does a lot of flirty stuff with him for a while, and then she just sort of gives into it. As far as I'm aware, that's still canon. Valkyrie dies, because right now I talked about it in Frosty Features, The Mighty Thor. Go check that out. So Jane Foster is currently Valkyrie because Brunhilde is dead. And as far as I'm aware, they had a relationship all the way up till she died. She died in 2019, and to my knowledge, she is still dead. Notable events, Serpent's Hammer. So the Serpent, that is the Serpent breaking Captain America's shield. The Serpent is Odin's brother, and what he did was he created 8 hammers that would go to they're similar to Mjolnir, and they go to different people and corrupt them. So as far as I could tell, this is the Fear Itself storyline, which I'm familiar with through the game Legendary. But anyway, these different hammers, very similar to Mjolnir, they pick people who are worthy, similar to DC's Lantern Rings, and it corrupts them. And so the Asgardians of the Galaxy and the Valkyrie all kind of spread out to try to get these hammers. And most of the time we see the Valkyrie in the comics, they all die. All of them die except for Brunhilde. And then eventually she gets her, I believe she gets her head cut off. Or no, her neck snapped in this one. Brunhilde dies a lot. Okay, so she ultimately dies, and turns out some of the remaining Valkyrie actually lived. And after Brunhilde dies, they all kind of swarm in, and they're able to get the rest of the hammers and defeat Serpent, which is cool. But then she's in this state of death. Annabelle Riggs is a doctor who's she's like an anthropologist who's obsessed with Brunhilde, loved the fact that she was alive, would study her all the time. She worked with the Defenders as well, and then she's just kind of a person, but she just like helped them. So she was like obsessed with her. Both of them end up in this sort of pseudo state of death, and so then Clea, who was introduced recently in the MCU, which is Doctor Strange's kind of mentee, Doctor Strange's wife, she kind of bounds their souls together using the pocket dimension that Brunhilde can use to transport to Valhalla, and so they exist, but one person can only be in place at a time. So when Annabelle's there, Brunhilde is in the pocket dimension. When Brunhilde's there, Annabelle's in the pocket dimension, and vice versa. I think I said that right. Once again, this character is extremely complicated for no reason. So with that is our another existence of Brunhilde. So then she dies where she is now. So she's still dead. And Malekith, the dark elf from Thor 2: The Dark World, is the one that kills her. This is where Jane Foster becomes a Valkyrie. All the Valkyrie die here, and they kind of had this conscious thing where it's between her and Annabelle. So they die, because they're together or whatever. And essentially one of them can survive. So Brunhilde lets Annabelle survive. So Annabelle Riggs kind of pulls through. She gets decapitated by Malekith. Kind of pulls through, and Brunhilde dies. And that's why we're at this kind of point with Jane Foster being the only Valkyrie. And I know that's wicked. It's also partially her fault. It's also partially Brunhilde's fault, because she decided that moving forward after the Serpent's Hammer situation with all the fallen Valkyrie, that there were no Asgardian women that were like strong enough to be Valkyrie, so she went on by herself, that causing her to die later. And it ended up where it is now, where Valkyrie is Jane Foster and she's dead. There's no backup plans when you get rid of all your backup plans. Alright, so power level. The way we work here, Marvel Strike Force doesn't power scale, but I sort of do. So, multiversal. That means you are a being that can end reality as we know it, not just in our universe, but all universes at once. Universal means that you can end your universe, and if you felt like hopping over to another one and trying to figure out what that is and end that universe, you probably could. Cosmic means you are strong enough to take out planetary bodies with a little grit and gristle. You could go around and take out maybe a solar system or a small galaxy. Nuclear, you are small city all the way to a planetary body devastation, so you could take out essentially the power of a nuclear bomb. City level, this is the most common level in the Marvel Universe. For city level, you're looking at characters like Spider-Man, high end, and Daredevil, or, the Punisher on the low end. And then there's Greg. Greg is the undead Asgardian that Hela spawns in Marvel Strike Force. For the sake of argument, if I had a toy Mjolnir and a fly swatter and a lot of anger and some Red Bull, I could kill Greg. So for the sake of argument, Greg is the power of a human being. So yeah, as far as Brunhilde goes, a lot of the Asgardians, they exist sort of automatically in that nuclear level, and Brunhilde is at the higher end of the nuclear level. She has never really shown, to my research and experience, any powers with giant AoE kind of like Thor can use lightning over a large period of area. He can cause explosions, things like that. She pretty much just uses her strength, which is cool, but she's sort of limited in that. So I would rate her nuclear just for her physical prowess and her actual strength, but there actually isn't that much data to kind of prove that she's even in that realm. Just for the fact that other Asgardians are, I'm equating her to that, and she's supposed to be stronger. So I'm saying that she's probably on the higher end of nuclear, bordering cosmic. But you know, we need more research, even though she's dead, right? She only died in 2019. She's got plenty of time to come back, baby. But for the sake of argument, here we go. Brunhilde at the nuclear level. And that is Frosty Features Valkyrie, everyone. I know that was super complicated and crazy. Let me know your questions in the comments. If I missed something you wish I said, or I got something wrong, let me know in the comments. That's totally fine too. I appreciate all of y'all checking that out. Also, as a reminder, I stream weekly on Twitch at 8 a.m. at the link above. And yeah, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all have a fantastic day. And as always, stay cool.